Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles. You're watching Eagle News International. Hello, CJ.
Hello, Alma, and good evening to everyone joining the broadcast. Here are tonight's headlines.
Hurricane Nicholas slammed into the Texas coast early Tuesday morning with meteorologists warning of life-threatening floodings. The Philippines will ease coronavirus restrictions in the capital, Manila, despite record infection numbers, officials said, as it seeks to spur the economic activity. President Vladimir Putin will self-isolate after coronavirus cases were detected in his inner circle, according to the Kremlin today, as Russia struggles with stubbornly high COVID infection rates. And Japan's foreign ministry urged its citizens to stay away from religious activities and crowds in Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Myanmar, warning of a possible attack. Hurricane Nicholas slammed into the Texas coast early Tuesday morning with meteorologists warning of life-threatening floods. The storm was packing maximum sustained winds of 75 miles per hour and was expected to dump up to 18 inches, around 460 millimeters of rain in the Houston area, according to weather officials. The U.S. National Hurricane Center wrote in its latest advisory that the storm landed at around 05:30 GMT. Take a look. Now, earlier, the National Monitor warned the storm was bringing heavy rains, strong winds, and storm surges to portions of the central and upper Texas coasts. Between 6 and 12 inches of rainfall is expected in parts of Texas and western Louisiana. Early Tuesday morning, Hurricane Center was located above the eastern part of the Matagorda Peninsula, according to the Miami-based observatory. Matagorda is just a few miles southwest of Houston, Texas' largest city. The National Hurricane Center also issued a storm surge warning for much of the Gulf Coast, meaning there is a danger of life-threatening inundation from rising water moving inland from the coastline. Ahead of the storm's arrival, many flights were canceled at Houston area airports, and the Houston Ship Channel at its busy port was closed. Schools were also closed Monday afternoon across the storm-affected area and will remain shut on Tuesday.
In other news, floods following heavy rain in Sudan have killed more than 80 people and damaged or destroyed tens of thousands of homes, according to an official yesterday. A total of 84 people were killed and 67 others injured in 11 states across Sudan since the beginning of the rainy season. That, according to Abdel Halil Abdel Rahim, spokesman for Sudan's National Council for Civil Defense. The deaths were drowning, electrocution, and house collapses, he added. Some 8,408 houses have also been destroyed and more than 27,200 damaged across Sudan. Torrential rains usually fall in Sudan between June and October, and the country faces severe flooding every year, wrecking properties, infrastructure, and crops. The United Nations estimates that the heavy rains and floods have affected some 102,000 people since July.
Meanwhile, reduced agricultural production, water scarcity, rising sea levels, and other adverse effects of climate change could cause up to 260 million people to leave their homes and migrate within their own countries by 2050, that the World Bank has warned. The estimate from the Washington-based development lender released Monday updates a 2018 report with new figures from Eastern Europe and Central Asia, North Africa and East Asia, and the Pacific to provide a more complete overview of the potential toll from rising global temperatures. Climate change is an increasingly potent driver of migration, the report said, Shortages of food and water, along with rising seas, highlight the urgency for action as livelihoods and human well-being are placed under increasing strain. Jürgen Voigele, the World Bank's Vice President for Sustainable Development, said the data gave a global estimate of the scale of potential migration. He also warned without decisive action, there could be hotspots of climate migration that will emerge as soon as within the next decade and intensify by 2050 as people leave places that can no longer sustain them and go to areas that offer opportunity.
Now back here in the Philippines, the country will ease coronavirus restrictions in the capital, Manila, despite record infection numbers, according to officials, as it seeks to spur economic activity. Restaurants, churches, and beauty salons in the national capital region will open at lower capacities from Thursday to get tens of thousands more people back to work. Here's presidential spokesperson Harry Roque.
Balitang IATF muna po tayo, no? Nasa alert level po number 4 po tayo during this pilot implementation sa Metro Manila. Good news po ito ha. Balik trabaho na po ang mga manggagawa at empleyado sa mga restaurant, mga karinderya, mga kainan sa Metro Manila simula Huwebes, September 16. Pinapayagan na po ang alfresco at indoor dining basta fully vaccinated ang mga workers at mga empleyado. Pwede po na hanggang 30% sa alfresco dining para sa mga nabakunahan at hindi nabakunahan. In addition, pwede rin ang 10% indoor dining pero kailangan po fully vaccinated ang customers. Alam niyo po, dito sa New York, hindi po kayo papapasukin ng restaurant kung wala po kayong proof of vaccination. So dito naman po sa Metro Manila, 10% ang indoor dining basta meron pong proof of vaccination. Balik trabaho na rin po ang nasa personal care services establishments. No? Kailangan fully vaccinated po ang mga empleyado. Pinapayagan na po ang 10% indoor sa fully vaccinated, 30% sa outdoor para sa mga nabakunahan at hindi nabakunahan. Sa religious services po naman, pinapayagan ng 10% indoor sa fully vaccinated at 30% po outdoor sa mga nabakunahan at hindi nabakunahan. Pero kailangan po ha, lahat ng church workers ay kinakailangan fully vaccinated. Pumunta naman po tayo sa general guidelines na inilabas ng inyong IATF na guidelines on the pilot implementation of alert level systems for COVID-19 response in the National Capital Region. Una, ang DOH ang mag-identify ng alert level ng pilot area at ang lugar na matutukoy ng DOH ay susunod po sa protocols ng declared alert level. Inuulit namin, Metro Manila lamang po ang mayroong alert levels. Community quarantines pa rin po ang mga nasa labas ng NCR. Lingguhan ang mangyayaring classification ng pilot area po dito sa NCR. Ang close contacts sa mga probable at confirmed COVID-19 cases, regardless of kanilang vaccination status at hawak na negative COVID-19 test result, ay kailangan pong sumunod sa at sumailalim sa 14-day quarantine. Kailangan magsumite ang mga LGUs araw-araw ng kanilang datos sa kanilang regional IATF. Pumunta naman po tayo sa update sa COVID-19. Nasa 20,745 ang mga bagong kaso ayon sa September 13, 2021 datos ng DOH. Mataas pa rin po ang ating recovery rate na nasa 90.4%.
Meanwhile, Australian authorities on Tuesday extended the coronavirus lockdown of the nation's capital, Canberra, to mid-October, saying the measure was necessary while vaccinations are ramped up.
Today's number of people infectious in the community is a concern and presents a challenging period of this outbreak. Now, we have a real focus on vaccinating 12 to 15-year-olds. From Monday, the 20th of September, so this is in a week's time, all Canberra children aged 12 to 15 will be able to book a Pfizer vaccination appointment at an ACT government clinic. But as I've just outlined, we have a lot of 16 to 39-year-olds still to vaccinate.
Now, almost 53% of over 16s in the region have received both doses, the highest rate of full vaccination in Australia, which is grappling with multiple Delta outbreaks. About 400,000 Canberra residents have been under stay-at-home orders since August 12, when a single case of COVID-19 was detected. Now, at just over 250 active cases, the cluster caused by the highly infectious Delta variant remains small, but has been treated with caution in a city that had largely avoided outbreaks. Australia has reported more than 75,000 cases and over 1,100 deaths since the pandemic began.
Now, New Zealand's largest city of Auckland will remain in strict COVID-19 lockdown for at least another week as Delta variant outbreak rumbles along. That, according to Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. Ardern said the city's 2 million residents needed to abide by stay-at-home orders because of the emergence of several mystery cases, which had not yet been linked to existing clusters. New Zealand imposed a national lockdown on August 17, when the first case of the highly transmissible Delta variant was found in the community. But stay-at-home orders were lifted outside Auckland last week as it became apparent that all new cases were emerging in the city. Ardern ruled out lifting Auckland's hard lockdown before September 21st, but said the city should then move down an alert level on the country's fourth-tier coronavirus response system. With 33 new community cases recorded in the city on Monday, Ardern said she was wary of lifting restrictions too early. New Zealand is pursuing a COVID zero elimination strategy, which has resulted in just 27 deaths in a population of 5 million throughout the pandemic.
Meanwhile, southern Chinese cities closed schools and ordered testing for millions today in a race to curb a new COVID-19 outbreak, which has sparked concerns over infections among unvaccinated school children. Putian, a city of 3.2 million in coastal Fujian province, ordered testing of all residents on Tuesday after Delta variant cases linked to a returnee from Singapore ballooned into a province-wide outbreak of more than 100 people. China has now been hit by multiple outbreaks of the highly contagious Delta variant after initially vanquishing the first wave of the coronavirus last year. The Fujian cluster is the biggest rebound in weeks and comes after the country declared the COVID outbreak spurred by the Delta under control in a test of China's zero-case approach to the pandemic. China reported 59 new domestically transmitted cases today, up from 22 the day before, all in Fujian province. Authorities said the cluster's suspected patient zero was a man who had recently returned from Singapore and developed symptoms after completing a 14-day quarantine and initially testing negative for the virus. The man's 12-year-old son and a classmate were among the first patients detected in the cluster last week, shortly after the new school term began. The variant then raced through classrooms, infecting more than 36 children, including 8 kindergartens, according to city authorities, in the first major school-linked spread the country has seen since the start of the pandemic.
President Vladimir Putin will self-isolate after coronavirus cases were detected in his inner circle, that according to Kremlin, as Russia struggles with stubbornly high COVID infection rates. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Putin was absolutely healthy and had taken a coronavirus test without specifying the result. Putin had been due to travel to Tajikistan's capital, Dushanbe, for a regional summit later this week, but in a call with President Emomali Rahmon said he would not be able to attend in person. Russian authorities have taken exceptional measures to protect Putin, who has been vaccinated with Russia's homegrown Sputnik V jab since the start of the pandemic. Foreign leaders, journalists, and officials have all been required to self-isolate in advance of being in contact with the longtime Russian Iranian leader. Putin on Monday met with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and with Russian athletes returning from the Tokyo Paralympic Games. Russia is among the countries hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic, with the fifth highest number of recorded cases, according to an AFP tally, and has struggled in rein in infections despite easy access to vaccines. As of Tuesday, the country had recorded 7,176,085 cases and 194,249 deaths, the highest death toll in Europe. Infections have been falling in recent days after a spike in August, but health officials still reported 17,837 new cases and 781 new deaths today.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. EJ and I will be back right after this.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Tayong mga Filipino, likas na palabati. Sanay rin tayong makipagkamay. Pero dahil na rin sa COVID pandemic, isinusulong ang pagbati na hindi na kailangan pang makipagkamay. Ang pambansang pagbati. Ito ay ang pagdampi ng kanang palad sa gitnang bahagi ng dibdib, kasabay ng bahagyang pagyukod ng ulo o paibabang tingin, at pagsambit ng mga salitang nagpapahayag ng pagbati, paggalang o pagpupugay. Pagkatapos nito ay ang pag-angat ng ulo ng nakangiti at nakatingin sa mata ng binabati. Pambansang pagbati, pagpapakita ng paggalang, kababaang loob at pagiging sensero nating mga Filipino.
Passengers here are in for a ride. Taxi drivers here need nerves of steel, while passengers here can get an eyeful along the way. Rev taxis accommodate passengers all over the world. The Driver, our series. Rev.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back to the news. Britain announced that all children aged 12 to 15 will be offered COVID-19 vaccinations. Here's Patricia Rodriguez for the report. Patricia.
Chief medical officers of the UK said on Monday that all children aged between 12 and 15 years of age should be offered but not required to take vaccinations against coronavirus. Britain has been one of the countries hardest hit by the COVID-19, recording more than 134,000 deaths of those catching the disease. Despite a successful vaccination program, case rates remain stubbornly high due to the emergence of the Delta variant, and officials are anxious about them rising farther now that schools have returned after the summer break. To note, vaccinating children has become a thorny issue despite other countries pushing ahead with jabs. Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization (JCVI), which advises UK health departments on immunization, currently says that the margin of benefit based primarily on a health perspective is considered too small to enable vaccination of otherwise healthy 12 to 15-year-old children. But the chief medical officers of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland said that the vaccines should be made available after taking into account wider issues such as education and mental health. They said that vaccinating 12 to 15-year-olds will help reduce transmission of COVID-19 in schools, with around 3 million children potentially eligible for the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Let's listen in on the statement of one of the UK medical advisors, Chris Whitty, made at a press conference in Downing Street.
Our view was the benefit exceeded the risk to a sufficient degree that we are recommending to our ministers in all 4 nations that they make a universal offer, and I want to stress the word offer, of vaccination to children 12 to 15 in addition to the ones that have already been given it. It will reduce education disruption. We do not think that this is a panacea. This is not a silver bullet. It's not a single thing that on its own will do so, but we think it is an important and potentially useful additional tool to help reduce the public health impacts that come through educational disruption. So that is.
Let's listen in on the statement of one of the UK medical advisors, Chris Whitty, made at a press conference in Downing Street. The current plan is for the children to receive just 1 shot, while more data will be gathered on whether a second dose will be required. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Patricia Rodriguez. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Patricia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was to insist that the Biden administration had prepared for the worst-case scenarios in Afghanistan as he faced irate lawmakers. The famously mild-mannered top U.S. diplomat was expected to face 2 days of contentious grilling before Congress, the first opportunity for political rivals to directly challenge the administration over the Taliban's swift win as President Joe Biden ended the 20-year U.S. military mission. Take a look.
Throughout the year, we were constantly assessing their staying power and considering multiple scenarios. Even the most pessimistic assessments did not predict that government forces in Kabul would collapse while U.S. forces remained. As General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has said, nothing I or anyone else saw indicated a collapse of this army and this government in 11 days. The evacuation itself was an extraordinary effort under the most difficult conditions imaginable, by our diplomats, by our military, by our intelligence professionals. They worked around the clock to get American citizens, Afghans who helped us, citizens of our allies and partners, and at-risk Afghans on planes out of the country and off to the United States or to transit locations that our diplomats had arranged and negotiated in multiple countries.
This did not have to happen, but the president refused to listen to his own generals and the intelligence community, who warned him precisely what would happen when we withdrew. This was an unmitigated disaster of epic proportions. I never thought in my lifetime that I would see an unconditional surrender to the Taliban. For weeks, our offices were flooded with requests to help people get out of Afghanistan, requests that were coming to us because the State Department failed to provide help. And then the unimaginable happened. On August 26, 13 American servicemen and women were brutally murdered by ISIS-K trying to help American citizens and our Afghan partners escape from the Taliban.
By January 2021, the Taliban was in the strongest military position it had been in since 9/11. And we had the smallest number of troops on the ground since 2001. As a result, upon taking office, President Biden immediately faced the choice between ending the war or escalating it. Had he not followed through on his predecessor's commitment, attacks on our forces and those of our allies would have resumed, and the Taliban's nationwide assaults on Afghanistan's major cities would have commenced.
UN Chief Antonio Guterres on Monday urged the international community to engage with the Taliban and to provide a lifeline of desperately needed aid to Afghans. A number of countries have said they do not want to engage with the Taliban directly because of concerns over rights abuses. But Guterres said this was the wrong approach. Take a look.
The people of Afghanistan need a lifeline. After decades of war, suffering, and insecurity, they face perhaps their most perilous hour. And let us be clear, this conference is not simply about what we will give to the people of Afghanistan. It is about what we owe. Excellencies, even before the dramatic events of last week's, Afghans were experiencing one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. Today, 1 in 3 Afghans do not know where their next meal will come from.
I do believe that it is very important to engage with the Taliban at the present moment for all aspects that concern the international community, be it about terrorism, be it about human rights, be it about drugs, be it about the nature of the government. So our attitude is to engage.
Guterres reiterated the United Nations commitment to remain in Afghanistan and deliver desperately needed aid.
Meanwhile, Qatar warned it would not take responsibility for Kabul airport without clear agreements with all involved, including the Taliban, about its operations. Let's listen in.
Right now, the status is still negotiation because we need to have an agreement that's clear for everyone, for all the parties, and who is going to take care of the technical, who's going to take care of the security aspect. There are a lot of things that need to be agreed on. We need to make sure that everything is addressed very clearly. Otherwise, we are not going to take any responsibility of the airport if all these things are not addressed and becoming very clear.
Now, Doha has become a key broker in Afghanistan following last month's withdrawal of helping evacuate thousands of foreigners and Afghans, engaging the new Taliban rulers and supporting operations at Kabul airport. Since the U.S. pullout, Qatar Airways planes have made several trips to Kabul, flying in aid and Doha's representatives and ferrying out foreign passport holders.
In other news, Japan's foreign ministry urged its citizens to stay away from religious facilities and crowds in Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Myanmar, warning of a possible attack. The ministry said it had obtained information that there are increased risks, such as suicide bombings, in the said countries: Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Myanmar. The advisory was met with puzzlement, with Thailand saying it had no knowledge of such a threat. Indonesian Foreign Ministry spokesman Teuku Faizasha said or denied that any warning was even sent to Japanese citizens there.
Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines today said it is taking seriously all received or disseminated efforts of possible terrorism-related activities. Now, this came after Japan's foreign ministry issued an alert cautioning its citizens in Southeast Asia, particularly in the Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Myanmar against possible terror attacks. Colonel Ramon Zagala said, as of now, we have not received any report, and we constantly validate all reports on security matters, and it is a continuous process. As per last review, our threat level is moderate. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police said it has not received any report of possible terror attacks linked to Tokyo's warning.
Eagle News will be back with more stories. Please don't go away.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Sila ang mga kinikilalang bayaning may mahalagang papel para makamit ang kalayaan at pagbabago sa Pilipinas. Pero sa panahong ito, may mga bagong bayaning nakikipaglaban sa sakit na lumaganap sa buong daigdig, ang COVID-19. Ang ating mga frontliner, gaya ng healthcare workers, mga doktor, nurses, medical technologists, at iba pang health professionals, mga pulis, sundalo, security guards, mga tauhan na nangangalaga sa seguridad at mahahalagang pangangailangan ng bawat komunidad. Ang mga bagong bayani, ating pasalamatan. Kilalanin ang kanilang sakripisyo at serbisyo para sa lahat.
Welcome back. Apple users were urged Tuesday to update their devices after the tech giant announced a fix for a major software flaw that allows the Pegasus spyware to be installed on phones without so much as a click. Take a look. Cybersecurity experts at the Citizen Lab, a research center at the University of Toronto, uncovered the flaw while analyzing the phone of a Saudi activist. That person is among tens of thousands believed to have been targeted with the Israeli-made Pegasus software, which, according to media reports, has been used worldwide to intercept the communications of activists, journalists, and even heads of state. Apple said Monday that it had rapidly developed a software update after Citizen Lab alerted it to the hole in its iMessage software on September 7. Attacks like the ones described are highly sophisticated, cost millions of dollars to develop, often have a short shelf life, and are used to target specific individuals, according to the company. Explosive revelations that governments have spied on people using the hugely invasive software, which was developed by the NSO Group, a secretive Israeli firm, have ricocheted around the world since July. Once Pegasus is installed on a phone, it can be used to read a target's messages, look at their photos, track their movements, and even switch on their camera, all without the person knowing. The flaw fixed by Apple on Monday is a so-called zero-click exploit, meaning that it can be installed on a device without the owner needing to do so much as click a button.
Dozens of anxious investors protested outside the headquarters of troubled Chinese property giant Evergrande after the debt-laden firm considered it was under tremendous pressure and may not be able to meet its repayments. Evergrande's plight has raised fears of a contagion across the debt-mired Chinese property sector, which accounts for more than a quarter of the world's second-largest economy, with a knock-on for banks and investors. The Hong Kong-listed developer is sinking under a mountain of liabilities totaling more than $300 billion after years of borrowing to fund rapid growth. An estimated 60 to 70 people gathered outside Evergrande's headquarters in the southern city of Shenzhen, demanding answers from the company.
Meanwhile, Russia fined Facebook and Twitter today for not deleting banned content, adding to a slew of penalties the government has already imposed on foreign tech giants. Now, Russia has been tightening controls over US-based tech companies and last week accused them of interfering in parliamentary polls due later this month. A court in Moscow slapped Facebook with 5 fines on Tuesday, totaling 21 million rubles or $288,000, according to an official Telegram channel. The same court fined Twitter 5 million rubles. Facebook has so far been fined 90 million rubles in Russia and Twitter 45 million, according to the state-run TASS news agency. Russia often takes legal action against internet platforms for not deleting content it labels illegal, such as pornographic materials or posts condoning drugs and suicide. And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
Tropical cyclone o bagyo. Ang bagyo ay isang uri ng lagay na panahon na nagdudulot ng malalakas at mabibilis na hangin at pag-ulan na maaaring maging sanhi ng matitinding pagbaha, daluyong ng dagat at pag-uho ng lupa. Narito ang mga dapat gawin bago dumating ang bagyo. Una, alamin ang balita ukol sa panahon at mga anunsyong pangkaligtasan. Alamin ang plano ng komunidad sa pagbibigay babala at paglikas. Suriin ang bahay at kumpunihin ang mga mahina at sirang bahagi. Ihanda ang gobag na naglalaman ng mga pangangailangan ng pamilya. Ilikas ang mga alagang hayop sa ligtas na lugar. Kapag inabisuhan ang kinauukulan, mabilis na lumikas sa itinakdang evacuation center. Narito naman ang mga dapat gawin habang may bagyo. Una, maging mahinahon. Manatili sa loob ng bahay o evacuation center at makinig sa pinakabagong balita at taya ng panahon. Patayin ang main switch ng kuryente at valve ng tubig. Gumamit ng flashlight o emergency lamp. Maging maingat sa paggamit ng kandila o gasera. Umiwas sa mga salaming bintana. Ito naman ang dapat gawin pagkatapos ng bagyo. Hintayin ang abiso ng kinauukulan na ligtas ng bumalik sa tahanan. Umiwas sa mga natumbang puno, nasirang gusali at linya ng kuryente. Huwag gumala upang hindi maabala ang mga emergency services. Siguraduhing walang basa o nakababad na outlet o kagamitan bago buksan ang linya ng kuryente. Itapon ang mga naipong tubig sa lata, paso at gulong upang hindi pamahayan ng lamok.
Hindi ka na mauhuli sa latest at what's trending kada umaga.
Welcome back to the news to Papua New Guinea now. It is considered to be the most anticipated day for the citizens of this country. A week from now, the 46th Independence Day celebration will be commemorated. Here's Eagle News correspondent Echo Ortaleza Quinola for the report.
This month is the time of the year where people living in Papua New Guinea are looking forward to. It is considered to be the most anticipated day for the citizens of this country. A week from now, the 46th Independence Day celebration will be commemorated. Every 16th of September, the country prepares and devotes time, effort, and talents to celebrate this remarkable event. Australia granted full independence to Papua New Guinea since 1975. In the city of Port Moresby, school competitions, cultural dances, face and body paintings are among their favorites. Malls, grocery stores, and offices were brightly decorated and beautified by Papua New Guinean ornaments. The country's flag were also hung on doors, windows, and poles. Shirts and Papua New Guinean Mary blouses and dresses and accessories are being sold in streets and markets. These unique traditional practices and styles are their cultural expressions, and it brings joy and pride to the Papua New Guineans. A bigger and brighter celebration will be witnessed this coming week. Papua New Guinea is not just the land of the unexpected. It is also known for its unique and fascinating cultural displays. We look forward again to a very remarkable and meaningful celebration this year amidst the overstaying pandemic. Reporting from Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, this is Echo Hortaleza Quinola, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Echo. Meanwhile, in many parts of the world, including the United States, blood supplies are at a critical low. MJ Rocadio takes us to Sacramento, where the Iglesia Ni Cristo hosted a blood drive there. MJ.
Hi, everyone. My name is MJ Rocadio. Usually, I do an entertainment showbiz update. But this time, I took a break and I donated blood just to give life and giving back to the community. And so I chose to do that. Let's watch this.
Hi guys, I'm Jerry Cotty here. I am about to donate blood. It's not about the showbiz, but I also love to giving back to the community. As they commemorate their 107 years anniversary of the Church of Christ, or Iglesia Ni Cristo, what better way to do that is to help the community by donating blood. So let's go ahead and let's donate. Blood right now. Woo-hoo. Giving life to others is the best, guys. So I encourage you to donate. Hi, this is my good friend Nika.
Hi,
I call her Fashion Nika. Yeah, so I heard that you are donating today.
I am donating. It's my first time actually.
Wow.
So I'm kind of a little nervous, but I hear everything's like, you know, the experience is usually good. So I'm excited at the same time. And I've been wanting to donate blood, and I was like, what better way to do it than when the church is sponsoring an event? So that's why
awesome.
I'm here.
It's nice catching up with you.
Yeah.
We are here because we are conducting a blood drive here in the Sacramento region. And this is an activity in the Church of Christ, or Iglesia Ni Cristo, where we give back to our community.
So, well, right after this, what else are you busy with? I heard about your aid to humanity. How do you keep up with that despite of the pandemic?
Well, despite the pandemic, we continue to give aid to our fellow men, because that is actually based on what's written in the Bible, that God commands us to, of course, love our neighbors, love our fellow men. So that's exactly what we will be doing today and also in the future. Actually, after this, we have a activity, a Welcome My Brethren, where we have guests who are coming in for the blood drive, and afterwards we introduce them the Church of Christ, why we are doing this. And it's a great and fun activity for everyone, and it'll benefit a lot of our fellows.
So I heard you donated, how do you call that?
They call it a power red. It's like a plasma with a red cell and a 2 pint of blood, basically 2 pint.
So I mean, how did you prepare for that? Do you have to good sleep and good nutrition?
Yes, I have to have at least 6 to 8 hours sleep and drink a lot of fluid, and I prepared it to at least eat some healthy high iron.
All right.
And I'm a regular donating blood most likely every year.
All right.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Typically have it every year. I believe this year we had it twice. I think because of COVID-19, there's a lot of need for additional blood donations. So I think that the church has went ahead and added an extra one.
Thank you. So why are you here today?
I'm here today to give blood. I've been donating blood, I think, since 2005, and it is important to me to give back to the community and to let the people know that the Church of Christ also help the community and we share our faith as well. So that's the purpose why I always, believe in community outreach program of the church.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know you've been consistently giving blood, and why is that?
Because I believe that donating a blood is a potential life-saving and an essential part in caring the patient. And as a church perspective, it is as a church member, it is our duty and obligation to help other people by means of donating blood.
I am here today to we are representing the youth organization here in the Church of Christ. Our organization is called Kadiwa, which is Youth with Noble Intent, and we're here to donate blood today.
To commemorate 107 years of the Church of Christ, am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
Until next time, just tune in to Eagle News. MJ Ricardo here. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, MJ.
Thank you, MJ. Well, they said
it's actually,
it's actually healthy for, someone who donates blood. So if you are qualified, donate blood. People need it.
Yes.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I am CJ Hero. We'll see you again tomorrow.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we live
in interesting times.
Don't know what to do whenever you are near. Don't know what to say